my first time seeing that. I guess I put it like this: when I came to Austin, was my first time realizing how black I was. My name is Kelton Malone. Originally from the Dallas area. I came out to Austin in 2013 to go to school. Thought I wanted to be a business student, maybe accounting, maybe finance. Went through that first year, applied to get into the school, came in undeclared, might I add. Went through that first year, applied to the business school, just barely missed out. Had a decision to make if I wanted to try again my sophomore year, which came along with stress and long nights and every single grade, every single assignment, everything mattered. It was like it was the end of the world. So I had a decision to make if I wanted to kind of carry on in that fashion again for my sophomore year, my second year in school, or if I wanted to pivot and kind of find something else that I was interested in. And so my freshman year, I was fortunate. I had a great economics professor, Dan Hammermesh, Professor Hammermesh. And he really just kind of showed me that one, economics, he had a book named Economics is Everywhere. And he did a great job at kind of showing and proving that no matter what you do, you'll be surrounded in the world of economics. And so it really helped me see the relevance and see the importance of economics, whereas I had just hated it and never really given it a chance. And so he was a big spark in that. And so then my sophomore year, well, I guess still freshman year, second semester, I met another professor. Her name was Dr. Bensavega. And she was saying that, you know, you're looking to get into the business school, a lot of times business students and economic students, they compete for the same jobs in the market after graduation. The only difference is economic students have more of a critical thinking skills, more problem solving skills, as it's more of a science than just a social kind of aspect. And so sat on that, really made a difference, and I really kind of, you know, internalized that and thought about it, digested that information, and at the end of my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, ended up declaring as an economics student. So here I am with an economics degree. I'm working at a bookstore for all of my sophomore and my junior year, and one of my buddies, his name is Ray, I'm still good friends with him actually. He hits me up and he's just like, hey, look, I got this volunteer coaching job. It's in Westlake, so you know, it's good families, good kids, great connections to make. I've already gone through the vetting process. I've been interviewed. Come on out and check it out, you know. So I go out. There's a practice. We go out. We both end up getting our own teams. So we get our own teams. We're working them out. Long story short, they like how I do. They like how I'm working with the kids. They bring me on as a coach. So I go from a volunteer with this organization to, after that first season, they give me a little bit more responsibility. They make me a marketing director, and they also task me with starting an organization over on the east side of town. And so this organization on the east side of town, it was called the Reagan Football Academy. So this was kind of my first venture into the nonprofit world. I worked with the athletic director and head coach over there. His name was Coach Keith Carey, to build an organization for athletes in that area and who were zoned to go to Reagan High School. One, to just provide continuity and activity and things to keep them busy, so that going into the high school years, they would have that chemistry, they'd have that camaraderie, they'd have that coaching that they needed to compete at a high level. So that's how I got involved in what I'm doing now. Bit of a far shot from economics, but graduated school. I was set to go to Rhode Island and work in insurance. Got cold feet leading up to my departure date. Ended up rescinding that offer. Stuck around in Austin. Worked for a marketing firm. Thought I was going to be working more in advertising campaigns and working on, you know, social media marketing campaigns. Ended up being just a sales consultant, which was cool. The money was fine, it kept me afloat, but the whole time that I was doing this sales job, I just saw all of the things that I'd worked for, my program, and all the time and this blood and sweat that I put into it, I just saw it just going right out the window. And so ended up leaving that job, went back with Westlake Football Academy. It just so happened that around that time, the guy that I was working with, the head director of the organization, ended up moving back to New York. So I ended up taking over the organization as it was completely mine. And I was speaking to a friend actually just before this. I was talking to Adrian about if you don't understand what it takes to get to a certain point and what it takes to have whatever it is, whether it be that organization or a lump sum of money, if you don't know what it takes to earn that and you haven't put in the work to get to that point yourself, it's almost impossible to be able to maintain and keep that. And so, to be quite frank, I didn't know the work and how intense and the effort and the time that was going to be required to upkeep that business and that organization and keep it running at the same standard. And so within a couple of weeks or within a couple of months, just being able to keep coaches in the door. A lot of our coaches were former UT players, and so they were getting ready to graduate, and so of course they had their own ideas and their own journeys set ahead of them for what they wanted to accomplish. And so just keeping coaches and keeping good help coming in through the door was tough. So May of 2018, we closed the doors to the Westlake Football Academy. And it just so happened that next month in June, my buddy DJ Johnson hit me up. He's working at St. Stephen's Episcopal School. He's going to be the head coach of the middle school football team. He introduced himself to me, just said this is what he had. He was looking for a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, whatever I was more comfortable with, to bring on staff. Ended up being the defensive coordinator. Had also talked to him about wanting to get back into the youth sports performance space, running camps, clinics, different programs, different leagues, and different tournaments. And we really saw eye to eye on that vision. And so it took about a year, a few months definitely, before we kind of started those talks again, as far as starting an organization of our own. And in December, we started those talks back up again. And by March, we had the paperwork set into place to kick off Underline Performance. And so that's kind of how I got to this point, and that's how Underline Performance was born. As things evolved and my role grew larger and my responsibilities grew larger, I mentioned that I had the chance to build an organization on the east side of town. And so whereas I started in Westlake, where it was a more affluent area, not a ton of minority families, not a whole bunch of kids that looked like myself, I started in that area, and don't get me wrong, it was great. There's bonds that I made that I still have in touch, and relationships that I made that I still have that are strong today. But it was a little bit different when I was able to step onto the east side of town, and I was able to coach and lead minority students who had come from a background that was more similar to mine. You know, these are kids that have seen things at an early age, that have kind of been forced to grow up at an early age. They may have to help take care of siblings while mom or dad is at work. They may have a sibling or a mother or a grandparent that's on substance, that's going through substance abuse. They may have parents that just don't see the importance in academics, and that put more of an emphasis on athletics or maybe something even outside of school altogether. And so being able to be in that environment and impact those kids was incredible to me, because it became so much more than just football. It became an outlet for them to be able to speak about things that were going on in their life. It became an outlet for them to be able to just release emotions and anger and stress that were going on from things that were a product of things that were going on in their life. And more than that, it allowed me the opportunity to look into these kids' lives and see, like, everybody has a different background. Everybody's different. Not everybody, comes from the same type of family structure, or not everybody has the same family values. But at the end of the day, that does not mean that these kids are any less valuable. It does not mean that they're any less smart. It does not mean that they're any less worth, all the opportunities that any other kid may be afforded. And so that being in that environment really just, it caused me to see both sides of the spectrum, and one, realize how fortunate I was, but two, want to make a difference in these kids' lives. I always tell people that if I would have never gotten out of my hometown, I would be a completely different person, and I mean that in the worst way possible. The world just, it gets so much, the world, it's a huge world, and being in the same town your whole life, you begin to think that you know it all. You're setting these routines. It's like living in a box, Getting outside of Irving, Texas, for me, just showed me a whole new world. It introduced me to a new life, in a way. Where I was from, everybody was used to being around each other. Everything was pretty integrated. When I came down here, it was my first time seeing that. I guess I put it like this: when I came to Austin, was my first time realizing how black I was. I remember walking down the street one time, and I was with my friend Javier. He's a Hispanic guy, and we're still good friends today. I was on Guadalupe and MLK on the main street on campus. There's a truck full of frat guys that pull up right beside us, and they're jamming, just having a good time. And I see them looking at us, but I'm not thinking much of it. It's a college town. Everybody's probably, just checking things out. Anyways, the light turns green. They peel off. Tires are screeching, they look all over. Somebody yells out of the car, "Fuck you, nigger." And I look over to my buddy, and I'm just shake my head, and I give a slight grin. And at that point, I knew I was no longer in Irving, Texas. I knew things were gonna be a little bit different. I was gonna have to learn how to maneuver in Austin, and just watch who I kept around me in different circles. But I guess getting back to the question, what has this experience given me that nothing that I've done before has given me? It's given me the opportunity to reinvest in youth. It's given me the opportunity to view adolescence, to view life, to view different communities through a different lens. It's given me the opportunity to see, where we lack as a people, and it's given me an opportunity to see just how great we are as a people. And so I've been extremely fortunate for it. Moving out here to Austin and having the experiences that I've had, it's made me only more proud of who I am and what I am. So for that, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and I wouldn't have it any other way but to be a black man in America. Just like a match being let off inside of you. You have this unexplainable feeling of fury, of anger. Sometimes you can be afraid, sometimes you can be worried, depending on what kind of situations you're in. But the thing that really gets me is that despite everything that's happening, people can still deny the reality and the truth that is the life of a black man. I'm a firm believer that at the end of the day, my decisions and my actions play a huge part in my outcome in life. But for someone to say that I haven't had to deal with prejudice, and I haven't had to deal with people having a certain conception about me or feeling a certain way about me before having met me, before I've even spoken any words to them, for people to tell me that that's not a real thing, I just feel like it's a slap in the face. Black Lives Matter, to me, it doesn't mean that any other life is less valuable. It doesn't mean that, white lives don't matter. And I've seen plenty of ways that it's been explained that kind of hit the nail on the head perfectly, is that, if there's a house that's on fire, firemen are going to come and they're going to put the house that's on fire, they're going to put water to that flame, and they're going to put that flame to rest. It doesn't mean that the house right next to it isn't a valuable structure. It doesn't mean that the family in that house isn't a valuable contributor, people that contribute to society. But at this point in time, this is the house that needs attention, or else it's going to burn down. It doesn't mean that only Black lives matter. It doesn't mean that Black lives matter exclusively. It means that Black lives matter as well. And we're trying to get the rest of the country to see that despite the fact that we do have great entertainers and we do have great athletes, we're more than just that. We're more than an entertainer, we're more than an athlete, and we reserve the right to use our platform. For those of us that do have a platform, we reserve the right to use our platform to make a difference and to impact the lives of others that don't have the opportunity or the power to do so. I'm a big advocate of believing that the experiences that you have and the things that you learn as an adolescent, go a long way in determining the character and the kind of person you grow to be. And so I think it's important, extremely important to see Black people in different roles and see people of color in all different roles and all different careers and all different, shades of light. So Black doctors, Black teachers, Black educators, Black coaches, Black accountants, Black financial managers. So just to see Black people in a different light, so that that we're not all angry and violent, we're not all thugs, we're not all illiterate, or whatever the case may be, the stereotype, whatever the belief may be. I think it's extremely important to see Black people, Black men especially, in different light, from different perspectives and just different careers. And one thing you asked, do I think that Underline Performance and what we do as Black men and being seen in this positive light affect the children, because we coach children of all shades? I definitely think that it goes a long way, and kind of their perception and having a role model and being able to see that I can look up to and I can trust, and I can have a role model that doesn't necessarily look like me or doesn't necessarily look like my dad or my uncle or something like that. I think that's incredible, because we don't treat any other kid differently. I treat me specifically, I treat every kid that I come across as a younger brother or as a child of my own. I do my best in making sure that they feel comfortable, and knowing that regardless of where they come from or what they look like, they're gonna get the same attention, they're gonna get the same coaching from me as any other kid would be. So if I'm gonna be hard on Johnny, I'm gonna be hard on Timmy, I'm gonna be hard on Devontae, I'm gonna be hard on Amante, I'm gonna be hard on Deshaun, I'm gonna be hard on everybody. I'm gonna coach everybody the same, as if, as they are the same. My hope is that, our generation can get out and vote, and as we get older and as the younger generations continue to grow, we just continue to wake up and see life for what it is, and continue to become more acceptant of each other, continue to become more knowledgeable of each other's cultures and where we come from. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know something and you're fearful of it, it's hard to put yourself in those shoes. I would say that the number one problem and the number one way that this is going to be alleviated is by having those conversations, right? It's hard to hate somebody once you know them, right? If I have an idea of what Billy John is going to be, and I don't even give Billy John a chance, and I have all these preconceptions of he's going to be lazy, he's going to be selfish, he's going to be untrustworthy, dishonest, if I have all these preconceptions about somebody before I meet them and I never give them a chance to make their case for themselves, then it's backwards, right? And I'm always gonna feel that way, and I'm gonna, in turn, I'm gonna cause other people that I talk to and share those things and share my opinion about Billie Jean or share my opinion about this individual, I'm gonna cause them to feel the same way. And now guess what? And I've never had a conversation with this person. Whoever I talk to about this person to, they've never had a conversation with this individual. So now we have this whole line of thinking built up, and we've never once had contact with this individual. It's hard to hate somebody once you get to meet them, and even if they have a way of thinking that you don't agree with, once you have a conversation with them and you get to see why they were brought up that way or why they have those thoughts, maybe it helps you to put yourself in their shoes. I can say that I don't like a person, but until I have a conversation with them and I see, oh wow, we both like football. Oh wow, we're both from Texas. We're both Cowboys fans. It's hard to hate somebody once you figure out and you begin to learn things about them and you see that you have things in common. Because I'm also a believer that a lot of the times whenever these people don't like us or they have these preconceptions, they have this idea that they're so much different than us. That they don't like the same things, that the things that they're interested in are so much better or so much different than the things that we partake in or that we're interested in. But once you have a conversation and you see that there are black people that like hockey, there are black people that like to golf, there are black people that like school and love to be in accounting or things like that. It's hard to hate somebody once you realize that they're not that much different than you other than the color of their skin. First and foremost is approach every situation with a clean slate, regardless of what the last person did to you, and whatever experiences you've had in the past, give everybody a fair opportunity. And I know it's hard, and I know it's just natural, it's human nature for us to see someone and look at the way that they're dressed, or listen to the way that they talk, or see the way that they walk, or whatever car that they're driving, or so on and so forth, and automatically give judgment to who we think they are or how we think they are. But one of the biggest things and one of the best things that I've been able to do that's impacted my life in a positive manner is to just give everybody a fair chance. Approach every relationship with a blank slate. And so by doing that, I've really been able to see the best in people. And I've been able to see people for who they are and not who I think they are or who I want them to be. And so I say that that's step number one, first and foremost, is approach every situation, every relationship with a blank slate. Number two is to know that your success and everything that you want out of life, it depends on you, right? Some of us may have to work harder than others to attain what we want in life. Some of us may have different hurdles, may have different obstacles to overcome. But to know that at the end of the day, knowing that you have the power to impact and influence your own life is extremely important. Because it's the moment that you start to look outside and you start to place blame on others, and you start to point fingers, is the moment that you take all of your power to impact your situation, to change your situation. You take all of your power from yourself and you place it into another individual or into another thing or to another organization. And so knowing that, yes, I may have to work harder to get what I want, but I know that ultimately it's up to the decisions that I make, the habits that I form, the mindset that I build, the relationships, the network that I form around me. As long as you know that the things that you want are attainable with those right attributes, the right team around you, the right mindset, the right habits, you'll be able to go so much farther in life, right? Knowing that at the end of the day, it's on you, right? There may be obstacles, but at the end of the day, how you react to certain things, how you respond to different things is ultimately left up to you. So that's number two. Number three, as a black man in America, and the last thing that I'll leave you guys on is love one another. You know, love one another. It's easy, and not a lot of people like to touch on this. It's easy to only get caught up in white and black, but love your brothers the same way as well. You know, approach your brothers the same way as well. And us as a people, black people, we have so much power. And I think that we're really just now starting to realize how powerful we are. You saw just this week, the NBA players and professional athletic teams refused to play games and they refused to practice. Just see the shockwave that sends around, you know? United, we are indestructible. My name is Kelton Malone with Underline Performance here in Austin, Texas, and this has been an episode of The Black Voice.